What's cracking, people? Angelic Mayhem here. Welcome to another edition of Never Played, the video series where I show you a brand new video game title that I have never played before. Today, I played The Night of the Rabbit, a new video game from German development house Daedalic Entertainment. You may know these guys from their past titles, Deponia and Edna and Harvey the Breakout. Based on these past works, I expected this newest offering to be a cel-shaded, illustrated affair akin to watching an interactive comic book. And in that, I was not disappointed. Now, before I begin this review, I'd like to discuss with you my previous experience with Daedalic's Deponia game. I tried to play that game on Steam and do a review of it. However, I could not because the game ran at an unplayable 7 frames per second. Their tech support did finally get back to me, but by then I had already uninstalled the game and chalked it up as a loss. But I am going to put that on the back burner and judge this game solely on its own merits. So let's crack this thing open and I'll tell you what I think. The settings are nothing special, nor should they be. You have multiple volume sliders for the cutscenes, spoken dialogue, background music, HUD clicking, and then one master slider for all of them. You can only change your resolution if your game is running windowed. Otherwise, you're forced to use 1920 by 1080. A little weird, but as long as it works, I don't mind windowed. I do find it odd that 1920 by was the default. Not many people have graphics cards that can handle that. I'm hoping that the game somehow saw my awesome graphics card and determined I could handle it, rather than assuming that 1920 by is a good idea for everyone. Graphics settings are simple choices, high, medium, and low, and you have checkboxes for using your mouse wheel to open your inventory. I'd uncheck that if I were you. Screen text, and a third box for whether or not you want the cutscenes to be high res. I will say right here and now that with everything maxed out and running at 1280 by 720, the cutscenes ran just fine. No frame rate drops. The interactive portions of the game had 2 spots where the frame rate dropped, but I'll come back to that. It's a point and click, so you don't have nor need a HUD. During the game, when you pick something up, your knapsack will appear and you'll see the object fade into the knapsack, letting you know that you've obtained it. When you select an object, your mouse pointer changes to feature an icon of the object you are now holding or interacting with. So, storyline. The story appears to be based around the lives of 2 characters, a 12-year-old boy who lives on a farm with his mother and a mysterious anthropomorphized white rabbit. At the start of the game, we meet the white rabbit as he is lost on a path in a fog. The rabbit speaks to a long-winded scarecrow who takes 5 minutes to come to the point. He can guide the rabbit through the fog. Then we switch to the boy, who wakes up one summer morning and is sent on an errand by his mother to pick blackberries. We'll call that the tutorial. When he comes back, a magical letter literally flies into his mailbox, signaling the start of his grand adventure. This game is a point and click. Traditionally, I enjoy games like this because they test your ability to solve puzzles, and I love puzzles. This game is basically an interactive story. In order to continue with the story, you must solve a puzzle to unlock the next part of the game. For instance, because he's 12 and a wuss, the kid won't pick blackberries unless we dispose of a prickly rose bush that's more or less nearby. To do so, we must go find a stick in the woods with which to beat the rose bush to death, thus blazing a trail toward dessert and the rest of the game. Now, let's step back and talk about the true strength of this game, which are the graphics. The artwork is gorgeous. It's clear to me that the vast majority of the time spent on this title was in Photoshop. It's like playing inside of a comic book or an illustrated copy of Aesop's Fables. The backgrounds are vibrant and the characters are well animated and beautiful. Visually, the cutscenes are the same graphics as the game. However, the frame rate occasionally drops during non-cutscene moments while you are exploring. Given that the game is basically a glorified animated movie, you would think that it could move a 2D sprite from left to right on my screen without crunching heavy numbers. By comparison, Call of Duty can keep track of 12 humans, the paths of their bullets, and the location of their war machines. This game can't move a kid 6 feet without getting all jittery. If you left-click on the screen, you'll walk to that location or examine an object. You can also pick up various objects, and they will automatically be added to your knapsack for later use. That part is simple. There is also a journal, and this is my greatest criticism of the game. The job of the journal in any point-and-click game is to keep track of the things I need to remember. The journal in this game fails to record key items of interest. For instance, the recipe for spells, and then adds things that break the fourth wall. For instance, the journal was nice enough to tell me that as the kid sleeps at night, red eyes stare at him all night long. Now, neither the rabbit nor the kid mentioned this at any time at the beginning of the game, nor did I notice red eyes while watching the 3 minutes of opening credits. The mini spoilers are a minor nuisance, but not being able to look up the recipe for a spell I'm working on is an intolerable oversight. At no time does the game offer any clear explanation on how to combine ingredients, and then it makes sure that you fail by requiring that the ingredients be mixed in a particular order. This was a nightmare scenario. You can't put the carrot in the can until after you put something else in the can. What is that something else? Nobody knows. While in the fog, a strange lizard appears at the bottom of the screen, makes a noise which is clearly audible, and then leaves. The scarecrow actually asks the question, "Did you hear that?" I can't respond myself, and the rabbit character automatically shakes his head no. That's absurd. We all heard the lizard. Why would he say no? The scarecrow spoke so slowly and for so long that I began to make dialogue choices based not on the plot, but rather on the probability of my choice resulting in less talking from the scarecrow. That's a bad sign. It took 10 minutes of real time before I gained control of an actual game character. Tutorial, opening credits, and cheap cutscene of a tree and a narrator lamenting his failure to intervene in the events of our story. 10 minutes of having to sit there without being able to skip through anything before I could start playing. I had to solve my first puzzle, the procurement of some blackberries, which I couldn't do because my character was afraid of getting pricked by the nettles of an obstructing rosebush. Never mind that I've been getting blackberries from my mother for years, or that, you can just walk around to the other side of the bush. Point and clicks overcomplicate everything, so I don't mind that this is a puzzle. So I have to kill the obstructing rosebush. How does one do that? Apparently by beating the rosebush to death with a stick. Finally, and I choose that word carefully, I received a magical letter in the mail, and when I opened it, I had to read as fast as I could the recipe for unlocking the next mission. It was a riddle you had to solve, but it was simple. Use the chalk, white powder, and the firecracker, black powder, on the container, and then add the 3 parts of a plant, fruit, skin, and root, which corresponded to the rose hips, the bark, and the carrot. But you couldn't just drop them all into the can. You had to do it in the right order. And try as I would, making it happen was agonizing. I tried for 15 minutes, and then finally I gave up and quit the game. That's right, I failed to solve the second puzzle, a drawing on a rock with a recipe that was not in my journal. The comments are below. Feel free to give me crap. So let's talk about pros and cons. The visuals of this game are beautiful. No question about it. And the other thing that I really like is what little of the story I got was heading in the right direction. I was engaged and I enjoyed it. I'm also going to add an exemption here. Normally I talk about replayability, but in this particular genre, replayability is not something that you look for. All point and clicks are one-time events. So no harm, no foul. Now let's talk about cons. The interface is rough. If you press escape which most games use escape to deactivate a selected choice. The game goes back to the main menu. All right, and then you have to come back into the game by clicking restart. Even though I turned off the music, during the opening cutscene and the credits, the music was blaring at full volume. The dialogue, instructions, and any speech of any kind, either narrated or dialogue between characters, was excruciatingly long and deliberately slowed down to add drama. It pained me to have to listen to it, but because my journal was so unreliable, I had no choice but to listen, because all of the clues were in the dialogue. After I spent a full minute reading about how fairies live in mushroom circles, don't repeat the diatribe if I accidentally click on the mushrooms again because they're near the stick I need to kill the rosebush. I heard you the first time. Add it to the journal and get rid of the hotspot for the mushrooms. The dialogue auto-advances, forcing me to replay it over and over again to get every last detail. When I have to read dialogue, I need it to stay on the screen so I can, read it. So, final thoughts. Point and click adventures are supposed to be fast. You play them in hours, not days. This game, pure and simple, was too demanding and far too slow. You had to put things together in just the right order. You had to listen to the scarecrow in just the right timbre. You had to pick the berries in just the right way. And none of it was right. Perhaps for you, it may be different. But for me, this game was just wrong. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button or subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this in the future. I'm Angelic Mayhem, and I'll see you next time.